Hello, fellow AFL enjoyers. Back for a reaction of round 12.
What's cooking, everyone?
What's cooking?
Fresh off the bye, boys.
Yes.
Carlton,
Look,
North.
that's it. So we got to relax this week a little bit. We could just enjoy AFL without the pressures of our own teams sucking like we usually do. But look, the first game was interesting because both teams, or the team that we thought would suck, actually put up a decent fight. The Baby Bombers did very, very well against Brizzy.
As is tradition on this podcast, when Essendon loses, we give them flowers.
Yep.
And when they actually win, we give them nothing.
Exactly.
So, flowers for the Bombers.
This and yeah, the tradition continues. Look, I thought it was interesting. A few shifting magnets there. So Martin and Caldwell were playing midfield, which was interesting, and Zach Merritt, who Fender just traded in Supercoach, was playing halfback. Was a very interesting move.
I feel like Merritt's played a lot of different positions this year, other than midfield. To be honest,
Pretty much,
they're just playing him everywhere, other than right in the guts. I think.
Yeah, which
gives some players some other opportunity, which I think is good for development. But
Especially in a game like this, when you're coming up against the Lions midfield of all midfields, you would think you'd want Merritt in there in this kind of a game, but they still found a way to be competitive. Like, credit to them. I saw early on they were blowout territory, and to settle it like that at the Gabba is very impressive. So, a couple highlights there from cheeky Caddy.
he was the main talking point. To be honest, yeah. He kicked that goal above his head.
Classic.
I think BT and a couple of the other was it Kane Corns were fighting over him, but who owns?
He's my boy. No, he's my boy. Yeah, look, I go Fox Footy. I can't listen to those blokes chatting away.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But yeah, no, look, the Caddy, amazing. But Jai Caldwell, I need to talk about him in his third quarter. So 16 disposals, a goal, 3 tackles, and we scroll down and we go to the clearances, 7 in a quarter. That might be one of the best quarters of footy by a midfielder this year, just about. Like,
I was happy to see it because I was playing George in draft this week, and he had McDamage dominating me, and I was starting to sweat.
So he had a little bit of an early response.
I was sweating,
to his,
and then
to the matchup.
And then I saw that response. I'm like, yes, thank you, God.
How many positives did McDamage get?
McDamage 41.
Yeah.
I think it was his record.
That's got to be a career high. Like, he's never been a super high possession getter guy. He's more been like about damage, right? But he's putting it all together this year.
Hence the name McDamage.
Yeah. I think McDamage is a 3rd or 4th in the coaches' vote this year. He's always up there, but he's definitely having his career best year, which I find kind of interesting because you'd think the Ashcroft brothers coming in and over the last 2 years would maybe push him out of the midfield and
maybe
restrict his ability to win the ball.
Yeah, maybe they'd chuck him on the wing a bit more just to allow those guys to get a bit more time. But mate, I think they're just
Do you know what his kind of midfield, kind of wing, kind of setup is? We know that he's winning more of the ball, and we know he's having his best season. But I don't know whether he's finding a way to do that more from the outside or the inside, to be honest. But
look, I think he's smart in the way he positions himself. Like, because it feels as though he's always the guy who's the outlet on a counter attack, or even through centre bounce clearances as well. He's always the dude who ends up with it and he's kicking it into the 50. Right. So I think that is just knowing, having the nous of giving yourself space and creating an option for your teammates during the progressions of plays. And that's what he does really well.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's always been a very smart player. And he's always 100%. Had great foot skills.
Yeah, there was, reason I was saying what I was saying there was I saw some vision. I think it was David King showing where it was like they had the ball in their half back line. And as soon as he saw that they had it, he just separated himself from his midfielder. I think it might have been Caldwell at the time. So, dude knows what he's doing, man.
He was in the Andrew McGrath draft, wasn't he?
Yeah, McGrath, Timmy, and then Hugh.
Yeah, I think Hugh's shown up, to be honest.
I think just a little bit.
And I think Timmy's the second. Like, Timmy's better than McGrath, surely.
Yeah, 100%.
And McGrath won the Rising Star. It's funny how he was just ready to go, but I don't think he ever reached I think his ceiling is just lower than the other players.
Yeah. And right now he's playing a defensive role as well. Like, he's playing a defensive stopper type. He's getting his fair bit of the pill as well, but like when you're not in the guts, it's probably just not as interesting, I guess. But the interesting thing as well, though, I'm pretty sure GWS traded from pick 3 to 2 to get Toronto. And then they, Brizzy ended up with the better guy, even though they traded down.
All for not a top 50 player in the competition, according to Ken Corns.
Which, he's been pretty good, Timmy Toronto, actually, this year. He's getting a bit better. But yeah, in regards to this game still, Kai Lohman gets involved with goals again. At one stage, I thought he was going to be injured again because he had an ankle tweak early in the game, but he still did his thing. But yeah, no, look, I think Essendon can look they can keep their heads up after this type of game. You know,
they'll need the scalp at some point though, Essendon, and their points are all right. Like I think they're on 24 points, so they're equal to the Dogs. I'm not sure if they've played one less game or equal now because Dogs had a bye. So they're in the fight, but
they're equal.
Yeah, so they're in the fight at the moment, the Bombers. But you know, to actually get into the 8, it's pretty competitive. They're gonna have to find a way to win a game that maybe they're not as advantaged in. Hopefully, that's not Carlton this week, because it might be.
Man, you don't let that happen. Come on.
I don't know if I have much control, but I think the Lions at least just did what they needed to do again, and they keep plugging away. So
yeah, look, I think the fact that they're not playing their best footy and they're still winning games, I think you just got to take it for what it is. You're not winning the premiership right now in was it July right now? What we got? June. Yeah. So whereas with Essendon, I think when you've lost all those tools, I feel like the expectations just kind of go away now. Yeah, now it's just play good footy, which is what they did in this game. So I think you'd be happy with that.
Yep.
Next game, probably what we thought was going to be the best game of the round, but it just ended up being a reminder that this is a pointless year and Collingwood are going to win the premiership.
It's funny because Hawks started 4-0, didn't they? And you would pencil this in as like the Hawks are just dominant. How hard are they going to be beat this year? Fast forward, 8 or 10 weeks, and Collingwood is just smashing every team, including Hawthorn. And they didn't even put up a fight.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Look, I will say this though, with Collingwood smashing Hawthorn, it makes me feel better about North Melbourne. Because we were at least in that game for 3 quarters, and I know we got smashed in the end, but it's got to make you feel a little bit better, Dino.
It did, but then I always stop myself because like you see so often, like this team beat that team, but then that team beat that team, and then you lost to that team.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah,
so,
fair enough.
like Sydney, for example, have been horrible this year. They pants us. We pants Melbourne, who then pantses a team that we didn't expect them to pants. So I get you. Given it is the week after, it did make me think, okay, well, look, at least we were able to apply our game style for a half. Whether, like I said last week, whether Collingwood allowed that and then just readjusted and had their way, that's a different story. But Hawthorn just lost their mojo, man. Confidence low. Even Ginnivan kicking a few early goals, I thought, okay, this is perfect for Hawthorn. That's exactly what they want. Get Ginnivan going against Collingwood. Meant nothing. Elliott, another 5. This dude, 5 this week, 5 last week.
That's insane.
I think he had 6 a couple weeks before that, 5 a couple weeks before that. Dude is in the form of his life.
It's easily the form of his life. We've always known he's been talented. He's had an injury interrupted career, really, and he's had patches, but he's bound for All-Australian at the moment. Yeah. And if he's going to play like this throughout the rest of the season, then that's just going to give the Pies a massive advantage because he matches up well on everyone. Not many defenders can go with this guy. So it was interesting watching the game and how dominant Collingwood looked, just going inside 50. They just scored every time they went in. Yeah. It was just some crazy record. And the Hawks just could not stop the Pies transitioning the ball. And that's what the Hawks probably have been good at from back half, but the Pies are the best at it.
And what always comes to mind for me is you see teams building say North or even you with Carlton, you've got the 2 pillars, key forwards. Teams like North envy that. We're like, we need a second key to play alongside Larkey. What we do need, what every team needs, is just play good football, get high efficiency looks at goal. Look at all the key forwards of Collingwood, if you want to call them that, Membry and Myercheck. And then you got Elliott running around playing like a key forward, essentially. You just need good footballers on the field, man.
You need smart footballers. You need to be able to take your chances. And you need to give them space.
Yeah. And the amount of knock-ons their midfield does to continue momentum. How many volleyball spikes will you see or little taps? The thing the best teams do in their premiership years is those little 1%ers knocking the ball on, shepherding. They're just on point, man. It's really crazy to see.
That was Hawks back in the day.
Yeah.
And Tigers.
And Tigers.
Yeah, Tigers, that momentum ball, but it's not, it's chaotic, but so controlled.
Well, that's the thing. It always felt like they knew what they were doing. It wasn't just a whack forward in hope. It wasn't just a punch forward. It was always, smart football. I feel like even Geelong back in the day as well, there was some smart footballers.
All the best.
There was the famous play. I think it was Matt Scarlett sort of knocking it onto Gary Ablett.
Yeah, in the granny.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's just that's just what the smart footballers do best.
Correct. Because you're not always going to get clean look at it. And if you can get rid of the ball by hand quickly, that's one thing. Like a Shees or fast handball or whatever. The next level is the whole team being on that train of thought so you can knock it on and get some serious momentum. So,
because this is the thing. If you're taking possession of the footy, that's a second and a half gone. Whereas if you tap it on,
100%.
That's just, you can't, the team can't set themselves up to defend that. So, yeah, but it's something to marvel what Collingwood's doing right now, man. Seriously.
100%. And it gets even better because Dacos took his first contested mark.
He did. Look, I'm glad you brought that up because otherwise I might have forgotten.
That's
ridiculous
hilarious.
coverage that guy.
So now he's a contested player as well. Huh? There you go. He's
Well,
not just cheap footy.
No, he's been a contested player for a while, this guy. Clearance dominant, man. What I thought was weird is Hawks were going to take off Nick Watson, it looked like. It's a sub. Now, obviously, I had a vested interest because of our draft matchup. And then he managed to kick that goal, and they kind of like, the guy that's holding up the sign is like, suddenly gets a bit awkward and a bit shy. Oh, shit, I don't know. And Nick Watson is not interested in going to the bench. And he definitely has seen his number. But what I find dumb about it is, why would you take Nick Watson off? Like, he's going to get a cheap goal from a high, right? He adds a spark. He's clean around the ball. Surely there's some other player. And in the end, there was. But if that was your first choice to take away, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know what...
Do you guys have an opinion on... I wouldn't take off Nick Watson.
No,
he
I
can
agree.
create a goal from anything.
I think players like that are meant to be more low possession, high impact. So
and they were trying to get him up in the ground.
If he's not had that impact yet, to your point, I think it's a matter of time before he's the spark.
I think so.
Yeah, unless they're trying to manage his minutes because they're getting smashed and they're like, all right, let's just manage Nick Watson. I don't know.
No.
That's the only reason I can give. Whereas if it's tactical, I think your tactics are flawed, to be honest. But
he didn't end up going because he kicked that goal and Scrimshaw came off, who doesn't seem to have a role this year.
Yeah, it's weird because
he's always just like, when the play is kind of just a kicking distance, but you don't really know whether if you kick it to him, they'll call it not 15 anymore. He's just always at that range. So he's just not providing that option of spread. And Hawks have introduced a couple of defenders this year, and I just feel like he's been pushed out a little bit. So
he's lost in the shuffle.
The whole unit, like even a Sicily, 6 disposals this game. He's not looked right all year. And like we see them bring in Barris and Battle, who are doing well. But then you look at the overall functionality of the team. Like he was better last year with Frost and even when Blank was fit before that. They seem to be playing more free. Like you knew what Sicily was doing. He's your captain. He's your elite player. So I'm not exactly sure. I've always had the thought, give him until post-bye. They're figuring it out. But like, if they're going to be a serious team come finals, they need to make a push sooner than later.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you want to be top 2, top
Correct.
3, top 4, and then beyond that, you're starting to struggle. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
They're not an elite team this year, which is okay. I mean, they've taken a big rise. So maybe we do have to manage the expectations.
I was going to say, it's okay because a lot of people thought this was coming. Like maybe a year where they're still good, but not quite so good.
I disagree.
But the Hawthorn,
I disagree because you might say Hawthorn fans, but not even Hawthorn fans. Everyone was talking about Hawthorn being top 2, 3, and like not to toot my own horn.
I think we were a bit more leveled. Especially.
I'm like, this is a young team. For them to back it up would be just as spectacular as last year.
Yeah. But my point was going to be like specifically the Hawthorn fans that were like, we're going all the way this year.
Yeah.
They very quickly got them back down to like, we were never going to be top 4.
Yeah,
like, that's not what you were saying 2 months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a month is a long time in football, man.
It is, man.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Look, I think it doesn't help that they don't have Will Day is out, which is his mob boy. And then they were good with him without him last year. So
yeah, look,
I don't think you can use one player as an excuse.
No, it's not. It's not. But their midfield's been kind of weakened, I feel. Or maybe it's just getting exposed now. Maybe it's just now we're starting to notice that.
I think it lacks a bit of a point of difference without him. Right. So I think that is one factor. But they have a lot of players running through there.
But are they running like guys like Dylan Moore, for example, not having the same impact?
Yeah,
like there's a few key players where it's like you can see it next week working. Like it's not gone, but it's just what's going on. It's a couple of weeks in a row now of disappointment. I think was it a friend of the pod, Drossos, in the chat saying the tackle count has been disgusting lately.
And that game specifically was horrendous.
Which is, to back that up 2 weeks in a row, that's not been the Hawthorn thing lately. Like, I think there was a point in time, a couple of weeks ago, where I was saying they're always in games, like all of back half of last year, start of this year, like even if they've lost, it's been both rare and a narrow loss most of the time. Well, and then all of a sudden, it's been 2 bad losses in a row.
Well, I've got the tackle count up. So Collingwood 82 to 38.
Yeah, it was bad.
That is disgusting to have your tackles more than doubled.
Yeah.
So, I think, look, No, maybe they need the bye, which is maybe I don't know if it's next week for them or whatever it is, to regroup and get their mojo back and get that energy back, get that swagger back. Because 38 tackles is not that doesn't bode well for future games.
I wonder how much Collingwood's like precision kicking and ability to set up affects Hawthorn's ability to tackle as well. That's something to factor.
Yeah.
Because like if it's mark and kick, you can't tackle a mark. So I wonder what impact that has. Surely they're not putting on enough pressure, right? But I also wonder whether it's hard to pressure a team that's really clean as well.
True. Can I say one thing that I noticed with the Collingwood? And this isn't going to be anything on Collingwood themselves, but have you noticed, is it just me, they get away with the most 50-metre calls that don't get paid on them, like against them rather. So for example, a player will mark it, they'll act like they've fumbled or didn't hear the whistle. Like at times it seems like literally slapping the ball out of their hand. And it's just like, whoops, I didn't hear you blow the whistle sort of thing. Have you guys noticed that?
Look,
it drives me crazy.
I will say I did notice that the umpiring was horrible. Like it might have been a 2-3 umpire, bad umpiring swing, to Collingwood's
There was
favour.
the deliberate that they didn't pay.
That one was disgusting. I could not believe
like there's
that one.
stuff like that. But
How
then
do they let that stuff happen?
Yeah, it's just like for me, I specifically noticed probably 2 or 3 times I'm like, that's 50. And it's just like this naive, I can't explain how the Collingwood players just play their arms like perfectly. That's another way you know that a team's on for like a flag tilt. When they're
playing
know
dirty
how to
as
play
well.
the game, play the arms, everything's on point. And they're just getting away with a lot, like delaying the game stupidly. Anyway, fair play to them, but
100%.
it's it can be quite annoying.
Yeah, fair enough. As I said, another one, side bottom just keeps on going on.
Yeah.
He's best
My
on
boy.
ground just about again. It's just your boy.
Since day
It's
one.
cra-
draft.
Are they just going to keep going until, I don't know, a serious injury or something? Like, I don't understand.
No idea, man. I have no idea. There's one to talk about in that regard later, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Sounds
moving-
fair.
Yeah, mate. So, look, I think we needed Freo to have a big game, a game where they announce themselves. This is it for me. This is definitely it for me. Gold Coast at People's First
Yeah, that's a big
is a
win.
huge win, man.
Big win.
It's
I'm not as much of a Suns guy as you, so this doesn't surprise me.
But at home,
But the thing is, you say that, but
And
if Suns
Freo
had won this game,
Freo haven't
they would have been
a
on
travel
top,
team.
right?
They haven't been a travel team either.
No,
Freo.
I'm not disputing that they would have been on top or anything. Like, as a statement win, I don't know. I'm not yet there yet with Freo.
They've been pretty good last couple of weeks, man.
No, they have.
You don't think that this is a statement win, being Gold Coast,
Not enough for me
beating
to
a
say,
top 2 team?
Not enough for me to say Freo's the thing, like Freo's back. Not for me.
Look, to say they're back might be a bit strong, but it shows some intent at least.
Of course. No.
It shows
Great
that,
win.
they can do it.
Not taken away, but for me, projecting Freo forward, it would not surprise me if next week's the bye. Week after's North. It wouldn't surprise me if in a couple of weeks
Well,
they're
we're gonna
back down
beat
to
them.
earth.
Look,
I wouldn't be surprised to beat them. I wouldn't.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, I would be. I would be surprised to beat it. But look, I think, this week they made it work with the midfield. And they made it work with Luke Jackson being like not even a secondary ruckman, but like another midfielder out there a lot of the time.
Crazy, man.
So, look, to be honest with you, I don't know if that can maintain throughout a season. That's the only thing I'm looking at. I'm just kind of like, can you really do that for a whole, for the rest of the season where you can manage having 2 rucks on the field like that? This game, it worked though.
Well, Darcy had very little time on ground, so
Yeah,
that's
true.
how they made it work.
Yeah, true.
Looking at Freo, they've beaten the Giants away. Then they smashed Port, which is not that hard to do, and now they've beaten the Suns away. So, and Port was at home. So they've won 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3 of the last games, but 2 of them away against good travel teams, at least this year. So that's something. But I also thought the fact that Freo kind of arrested their momentum when Gold Coast was really coming for it in the third quarter shows a bit of a mentality shift as well. So I thought that was a bit impressive because Gold Coast really was smashing them out of the midfield for a period of time, and they managed to kind of win that back. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, 100%. Look, one thing I want to do before I forget, all right? So I was meant to, this would have been perfect for last week, and I'll tell you why in a second, but Dino, I got you a little something, right?
Me?
I got you a little something, man.
What's this
Yeah.
for?
No, just something that...
During the Freo Gold Coast game, it's confusing.
I know, hey, look, you'll see exactly why.
Hey, my boy.
Your boy.
That's a cheeky Murphy Reed Rising Star
That
card.
is a Murphy Reed Rising Star.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Nah, you're welcome, mate.
That's my guy.
That is your boy. And you know what happened last week? I was meaning to give it to you last week when he kicked 4 goals or
true.
whatever it was. And you mentioned his name, and I was just so pissed that I forgot to bring it.
That's
this
mad.
week he got like 30 dream team, so he must have done horrible. So,
That's
but
mad.
yeah,
Cheeky numbered card.
Matt's
261.
giving Freo secret Freo cards on the pod. Is like he's cool. Watch out
that's my love language.
Watch out for
footy
like
cards.
That's like I love. Thank you, man.
a David Mundy or something like that.
David
coming
Mundy, bro.
Hey, wait for your Sandilands card next week, George.
No, I've got a
he
he
does
gave me
have a
Sandilands card.
Yeah, the Sandilands.
Oh, yeah.
The Sandilands card.
I
Live
sleep
on the
with it
pod
every
was-
night. The Sandilands card.
Say what you want about Matt. He listens.
I do. No,
Get yourself a man that listens.
That's it, man. You say that you like Sandilands. I pay attention.
I didn't say I like him. I said I loved him and he was the greatest ruckman of all time. But not a big deal.
Yeah, nah, just a low key.
You know what's funny about this game?
Yeah.
The Leo Lombard celebration. Did you
Oh,
see the
bro.
goal celebration?
No.
It lasted like 2 minutes, man.
I didn't see it.
The guy was doing like laps around the ground. He was high fiving the crowd. It was probably the best celebration I've seen from a first gamer.
Wow, how cute.
And then ran straight to the bench.
Yeah.
And you know what he gave us when he ran to the bench?
What do you give you?
He gave us a Nick Melcheski signing, or sighting rather. I haven't seen that bloke in a while.
Malcheski.
Really?
Yeah, so he had a little,
I didn't
he
notice that.
dapped him up. You know
on the
what I
Sun
mean? So-
stuff.
Yeah,
Oh.
the Sun staff, Nick Melcheski, man. That's a big, and for me that was a heartwarming because
He was a great super coach.
exactly right. And that's exactly what he was to me. And the 2 goals in the final was cool too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Classic.
shout out Nicky Mel. But yeah, in that game as well. Look, I noticed him. I feel like we've mentioned him a few times, but a guy who gets flowers a lot on the pod, Voss, man.
I love Voss.
He's like I'm a medium forward guy. Apparently, we're just gonna add Voss to the medium forward tier list.
And
You
just
know
to be
what I
clear,
mean?
this is a Patrick Voss, not Michael Voss.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah, Paddy Voss, man. He's got that dog in him for sure, man. He's that type of guy.
I love his aggression. He gets full into it. It's like he's playing local, like futsal or something.
Yeah, no,
You know what I
exactly
mean?
right. No, 100%.
But he's playing AFL football, which is a bit. His reaction seems a bit out of place. Like he's not media trained or anything.
No, but that's fine. That's
it's
what,
great. No, I love
Yeah,
it.
100 it's like, look, it's on the Leo Lombard, type,
Yeah,
vibe. That dude, the way he, celebrates and the way
He's still celebrating Leo Lombard. He's still going.
he's still running, bro.
I think he's at Swan Street at this point. He's run all the way from Gold Coast.
No, it's cool for him, man.
Wasn't he? Sorry, when he got drafted, Leo Lombard, didn't he? After they yelled his name out, he was getting interviewed and he threw the F-bomb out or something.
Yeah, he did.
That was him.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it was Leo.
So
He's
Lombard,
an academy prospect, yeah?
He is,
So he was always going to go there.
And he still threw out the F-bomb. You know what I mean? Like probably
he's
more to come from him in the celebration.
Nah, 100%.
Unhinged sort of stuff. Yeah.
You guys know that Flanders kicked 3 goals in a row?
Yeah, what's up with Flanders?
Put him in the midfield. He scores something like 70 Dream Team points in the half. He kicks 3 goals, one of them being like the most ridiculous in the wet. Like this game was in the wet, off the edge of his like foot to go in and to keep him in it. And if we're gonna be like Matt's and talk about draft on a thing, he got no Supercoach points for that goal, man.
he got no points.
Like he got like 10 points.
You're expecting 15.
That should have been a 30, man. If that was Bond, he would have gone to 200.
Nah, 100%.
That was insane.
Bond gets kissed. Let's
He
be
gets
fair.
kissed. But like the broader thing is like this guy makes his opportunities count when he gets on the ball. And when he doesn't, playing half forward or whatever shitty role he's got, he just does not touch it. It's such wasted potential. They've got to rotate him more, man.
What team would be a good fit for him?
I think he's quite a good player. So I think most teams could utilize him either as a halfback or a midfielder.
I hate to say it, probably Essendon, Saints.
See, I think one that I reckon he'd be really good at, GWS.
Yeah,
Because they have Tom Green.
That's not a bad shit. Yeah.
They have Callahan, who are bigger bodied. Callahan also moves well. But if you had another player who can progress the footy from the midfield, because I guess, because they've got Ash and they have Lockie Whitfield who progress the ball from the half back line. But a guy who can, provide that transition in the mids,
stuff.
if he wants to move to Western Sydney,
Yeah.
that is.
No, that's a fair shout. I was going to say as well, Hawthorn. We were talking about their midfield before,
Actually,
needing a bit more creativity.
You know what? That might be because I think he's a Vic boy as well.
They'd have money to get him anyway. I think teams should go after him. I wouldn't be surprised if there's trade rumors.
I think they'd have to, man. With Lombard and who's
Jake
the other-
Rogers is another
Rogers,
one. He's
like
another.
they do have a bit of depth. They can afford to let him go. Clearly, they've got no permanent role for him.
So what's the thing? They're prioritizing Noah Anderson and Rowell and Miller, and that makes sense.
And then
you know?
Humphreys gets the.
Well, then
Humphreys is the fourth mid man.
Yeah, and then you've got Rao potentially leaving. There's a couple small rumours.
Yeah.
So then the spot's there again. So we'll see.
True,
But
true. Yeah. But nah, look, if Rao does commit, I reckon Flanders should be like, look, man, I know that my best footy is like all Australian level. Like, I got to go, you know.
just quickly as well, the end of this game. So George mentioned Freo wrestled back momentum when Suns hit the front in the third. Bolton, 2 goals. 2 of the last 4 goals he scored, and the last one he did a chase down tackle, which was insane. Ball was going the other way on a counter attack. Chase down inside their own 50, handball goal. So that's something you don't always see from him, like that desire defensively, especially in the rain, close game. But credit to him, man. It was always going to take him a few weeks to get into it with Freo, but he's definitely back to his best now.
He was definitely worth the recruitment.
Oh yeah,
and provides that X factor. And it is fun. Like, I wouldn't normally say Freo Gold Coast is a fun game to watch, and I can't say it was super fun, but anytime it's a close game in the last quarter and it's wet, it just makes the game interesting.
Yeah,
because people are sliding over each other. There's desperation. It's super close and contested, and I just thought that was quite an interesting game to watch, purely because of that last quarter and because of the wet. So
yeah. Next game, big comeback from GWS, and great that they did that. Like, not that I don't want to see a Richmond win, but honestly, for Callan Ward, they had to do it, man. Honestly, like it's a very sad situation.
Well, he gave him the team talk, huddled him up.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Whitfield gave him the hug, the kiss on the head. Like, they needed to do this for him, and I'm so glad that they did. Sorry to Richmond supporters, you know, cost you a win, but you guys don't need a win anyway. You guys aren't making finals. Just enjoy your high draft picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was always the way for Richmond this year. Is just develop, win what you win.
Yeah, I think Richmond would be devastated by that loss, man.
No, look,
I mean, it was the last kick that won them that game, man. They were in front for 90% of the game.
No, of course, but in the cold light of day, they're still going to get a couple top 5 picks. It seems their own Norths. It doesn't matter.
And they would feel good about being 30 points up against GWS when you're still a rebuilding team is pretty good. The only thing I will say about Richmond and their decent results, how much has it got to do with their experienced players and not the young guys? Because I think, honestly, it's got to do with Taranto, it's got to do with Hopper, it's got to do with Nank, and those dudes aren't going to be there forever.
Every time they win or are close, I'm always like, oh, who did well? And you look at it's sorted here in Supercoach terms. It's always like, look, Nank, Prestia, Banks, okay, Hopper, Vlostuin, Taranto, Ralph Smith, Miller, Broad. These guys have been there, if not through the ultimate of highs, at least they're senior players, right?
Well, it does help because I think that was Prestia's first game this year.
He's good for a game or two before.
And he had a big game, but you know he's probably hammied next week. But
if you bring him in on draft this week, you're a chump. I'm not bothering. But the point being, to Matt's point, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
That was always going to happen. I think the Richmond fans in the AFL was a bit doomsday about their chances of winning games this year. When those key players are all fit, you will win a few games. A lot of the team is actually quite experienced, but then of course, like a massive chunk of it is very inexperienced. So it's kind of a lopsided list at the moment.
Yeah, it's just like it's a shame for them. They went and sent first rounders to get Hopper and Taranto, who are great mids, but it's like the rest of the team sort of fell off. You know what I mean? Like all these other guys got too old. Cochin gets too old. Martin gets too old. He retires. Tom Lynch has his injury issues. This game he actually looked all right and he took a contested mark or two. I think he might have beat Sam Taylor, and I think it might have been Sam Taylor's first one-on-one loss.
Oh wow!
You know, for this week. So you know there was something there for him. But like,
you kind of have to go all in though when you're winning premierships. It doesn't come around every day. Yeah, so you have to. You trade, but you need to trade. Like even Collingwood won it a couple of years ago. Bad year last year. They know that they're still in a window. It was doubling down again. Yeah, getting like a Houston in, for example. Like you have to do it, and look, it's paying dividends. So Richmond just was really unlucky that everything happened at once. But hopefully for them, these aging guys lead the way, and then in a couple of years,
I think they were extremely lucky with their timing, Richmond's timing.
Yeah,
to get that many picks in the super draft.
Correct.
They still haven't even played Smiley or Taj Holden.
Yeah.
True.
Correct.
So I think they've done fantastically, and they're overachieving at the moment, Richmond. So
100%. I think back to Callan Ward. Right. So he I
So
think
just thought of something to say later, but
yeah.
you mentioned Callan Ward and I'm laughing. I'm thinking of a very different thing, but you go.
Yeah, nah.
Sorry.
I just want to. I think, yeah, nah. It sounds like it's going to be the end, like, because they were talking that his family had already moved to Melbourne, so so this year was already going to be the last year. So it's kind of sad that this is going to be the last moment. But
He's
at
done
least
a Judd, mate. He's done a Judd.
He's done a Judd, but at least hopefully he'll be around there. He'll galvanize the boys. You know what I mean? Like, now he can, be a proper mentor for him, and hopefully the recovery isn't too harsh for him and the rehab's too harsh. But yeah,
I reckon he'll go home to do rehab, man.
Oh, you're probably right. You're probably
won't
right. What I'm
stick
saying. Yeah, no, that's fair. But no, congratulations on a great career, though, man. That was a
100%.
tough move to make. He moved really early. Like, it might have been after his second or third year at the Bulldogs. Went there to GWS, and I feel like he's probably a big reason why they actually got to the successes that they've had that they have had. Look at compared to Gold Coast.
Prime Ward when he got there, he was a beast.
100%.
Yeah.
And now for this round, it's like Whitfield goes back into the defense a bit more, which makes a bit more sense. Ash does his thing. I feel like Riccardi has been playing some good football as well, man. He's been playing a bit in the ruck as well. Cadman as well. Like, it's there's a couple little things that are going well for them, and hopefully they can start to actually be playing better footy, man, because there's so much talent on this list.
Well, they're a bit of a weird regular season team the last few years, where they'll go through these weird mid-season, early season slumps, and then they always seem to bounce back. So I reckon post-bye for them, they're going to build some serious momentum, assuming injuries don't stop them.
Yeah.
Can I say what I was laughing at before?
Yeah, 100%.
When Cal Brown kicked the winning goal, and we know Cal Brown's got the best celebration song in the game, the crowd was right into it. Did you see it, man?
What was the song again?
I'm not going to attempt to sing it. It's just a beat. What is it, Mato?
It's called El Sonidito, something like that, and it's just like it's like this. It's actually on Grand Theft Auto, the song. It's just the keyboard.
That's crazy.
So
anyway, the crowd's like jumping up, like
yeah,
it's the best.
Shout out to him for picking that song, bro, and introducing me to that song, because now it's on my Spotify playlists. I'll tell you.
Shout out to the crowd for getting into it, like he probably dreamed of.
Yeah, that's
when he chose the song.
He chose the right song, bro. He chose the right song.
Can we talk about the rabble that is Sydney?
The rabble.
Sydney Swans?
All right.
How do you lose by 90 points, bro, at home?
Disgusting, right? Disgusting. But look, because you said rabble, right? Wayne Malera mentioning rabble, and they got him to apologize.
Mate,
rubbish that they got him.
That is the weakest thing I've ever seen.
I didn't see this. What? Tell me.
Basically, he said,
just doing a post, like in the rooms interview with one of the stations, whatever. Yeah,
along the lines of, look, we could hear the way the Sydney boys were talking to each other. It was a bit of a rabble. Along those lines.
Oh wow.
But the thing is, I don't think that's that big of a thing to say. This team just lost by 90 points. No. Of course, you as an Adelaide player are going to notice that these guys are communicating funny, and they could sense that they were off.
It's like saying we could tell out there they were a bit of a shambles. Like, would that be the worst thing to say?
Yeah, no, it's no.
It was accurate.
No, that was just an honest reaction. Like, I can't believe that he phoned up Tom Harley to say, hey man, sorry for what I said, calling him a rabble. And Tom Harley's probably like, well, bro, they were. Like,
you know what it is though? Sydney just hasn't been a bad team for so long. They don't know how to be a bad team. Like, man, people are going to say things about you. You can't perform like this.
I don't think Sydney wanted an apology. I'm assuming it was Adelaide telling him to tell them sorry, which is crazy.
That's
just
so weak from Adelaide.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, like, just it was it's not even that big a comment either. It's just like saying, oh, they were bad today. Can you imagine if the rabble isn't that much further than saying bad, in my opinion. If we're going to talk about English.
Massive overreaction.
Yeah, 100%. But talking footy, that was just a massacre. That was a massacre. That's an embarrassing on the day where they had all the champions there, Paul Roos. They're talking to Barry Hall. He's looking like he's dressed for the clubs later. Who else? Goodsy. You're seeing all these guns out there. That's just so embarrassing in front of those who sell it. They'll holding up the cups and stuff. You know what I mean?
It was the 20-year anniversary, wasn't it?
Yeah, of 2005.
Dare I say, blood's culture. No more. No guarantee to just be a thing. Like I said, they've always been a good team in my lifetime, but mate, it's not a God-given right, it seems.
No. And look, they're going to say, oh, they've got injuries, but like, even then, this amount of a loss at home to any team, is just there.
And the funny thing is, last year they got destroyed by Port that one game, which everyone obviously put down to an anomaly because they were great last year. And then ultimately they never were quite the same after that game. Even though they end up making the granny, it wasn't as scary of a team. And now, for it to happen in a year where they've been poor, it's like, well, actually, what's going on here?
Yeah. Well, look, now that you mention, that they became less of a scary team. I don't know about you guys, but I felt at this point of the year last year, Sydney were like the Collingwood. You know what I mean?
100%.
They were the
maybe
most dominant team we've seen in a very long time. Man.
Yeah, like Heaney, Goulden, and Warner were like
historic numbers.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's just the drop off is crazy, man. But on the other side of the game, Adelaide, man, they're guns, man. They're guns, and they have guns in every position. Mark Keane, bro, gun defender already. Josh Worrell, gun defender. These dudes, we didn't know who they were like 2 years ago. We didn't know who they were at all. Whereas now all of a sudden, Mark Keane is flying in, taking marks. Worrell can do the same, and he's a great distributor with the left foot. This team's, man, it's fun, man.
They had 14 different goal scorers.
That's
almost their entire team scored a goal. Incredible with their scoring power, and it always has been in their semi-successful era in the last sort of 10, 15 years. Their absolute best is some of the scariest offensive player you'll see.
100%. It's part of the DNA of Adelaide.
It is. Yeah, they can really score big when they get on a roll, man. So credit to them.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at the goals right now. So 3 goals for Rochelle, 3 goals for Keys.
He's in good form.
Mate, Rochelle, that assist that he
oh
gave.
My gosh. I don't think we've seen anything like that on a football field.
That is ridiculous. That is like... that's like a trivela, you know what I mean? They call it in soccer. It's trivela, where it's outside of the foot.
And it's like me hitting through balls on FIFA every time,
exactly.
Even though it's not on, but it was on this time.
Yeah, triangle, L1 triangle is what that was. Beautiful chip through ball. It was like Steven Gerrard to Daniel Sturridge back in the day. Liverpool fans, if you know, you know. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And Keys, shout out to him for finishing it off as well. It was still a 50-meter, kick, on the left peg. Man.
Yeah. The other thing to say is they kicked 21 goals, 5. And that's
insane.
That's
man.
super efficient. That's as efficient as it gets.
That's amazing.
Because I'm sure one of those 5 is at least one of them is a rush behind or something.
Well, I'm looking now. So 3 of them were rushed. They only kicked 2 actual behinds.
That's insane.
Not that hard to win a game when you're. And the other thing is when they've got the dominant play and they're taking their opportunities, the scoreboard just goes out of control immediately, and then you just can't come back.
They're doing good, man. They're doing good, and they've got depth in positions as well. Like I'm looking at clearances, and Sam Berry led them for clearances. You feel me?
Huge.
Like Sam Berry and
my boy Sam Berry,
your boy Sam Berry,
made me sweat in draft anyway.
Mate, what did he end up getting in?
78.
That's okay. Look, if he's leading clearances, at least he should be in the team. Maybe we'll get some high scores for you if you hold on to him, I guess.
Crazy how Rankin is the one to not have as much dominance in a game like this.
See, speaking of draft, my 2 draft guys, so Rankin, and I brought in Tex Walker as a loop, and he got 37. I'm like, man, in a game where your team dominates, usually Tex pops in for 3-4 goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just
when the spread's too it spreads too even, man.
Yeah. True. I guess he's coming off of a break as well. Maybe he has to get back into the swing of it.
Man, speaking of accuracy, what about the Ds?
The Ds,
they only kicked 21 points.
They don't got it, bro.
7 goals, 8 behinds in the last quarter. That is wild. I've never seen that.
That's quite sad, man. You got to do better there. Look,
do better.
Look, you got to do better. Look, I gotta say. So I don't know exactly when he put his behinds in. But Jake the Snake Malcolm had 2 behinds, right? I do have a little story with Jake the Snake, right? So I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, that went to school with Zumi.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But you didn't know details, right? At the time.
Look, what I will say, so friend of the pod, Zumi, also went to school with friend of the pod, Chris, St Kilda supporter, right? St Kilda fan, they won. And actually, it was his birthday on that day. So happy birthday, Chris, right?
Happy birthday, Chris.
But the interesting thing is, right, I feel like this is a bit of a revenge game from St Kilda to Melbourne. I'll tell you why. Because Jake the Snake Malcolm apparently took a hanger on Chris during school. so could you just which I can clearly imagine, Chris, lanky bloke, just, Melksham flying through the sky and just,
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Knee in the back, just, maybe that's why he's got a bad back, you know what I mean? But it's come around. It's come around to this moment on his birthday that the Saints go and beat Melbourne.
That is wild. I need to hear this from Chris himself.
Yeah, nah, legit. So Georgie's lost it, man. Georgie's lost it.
A mate of a mate told me one time, bro. He took a hang on him in high school and he's never forgot it.
That's a story from Zumi. Zumi said basically, I taught Melksham how to kick. Chris taught him how to take a hanger. So, but nah. So look, I'm gonna say that it's A1 source, that one about that game. But yeah, look, shout out to Jack the Snake Melksham.
Shout out to Chris, man.
Shout out to Chris, man. Shout out to Chris for getting someone taking a hanger on him. Look, man, this game, I think it's like it was almost like the perfect St Kilda game, where it's just like all their players do well. Like Sinclair does the business. Okay, apart from Philippou going out earlier, that hurt me. Jack Steele was a good game.
Butler back.
Back. Marshall held his own against Gawn. You know what I mean? He was fine against Gawn. I thought he was going to get destroyed like he did last week against Wits, but he was fine. They've got one in Isaac Keeler as well. 3 goals for him, and he's a presence, man. He's a big boy. He's very mobile.
Back in his draft year a couple of years ago, he was very interesting athletically, but a bit slight, obviously, a bit clumsy. But I think if he continues to build his strength up, have impact like this, as a second or third tall.
Well, look, being an athlete as a key position is half the battle, really. You know what I mean? That's a big part of it.
It is interesting you kind of bring up who kicked the goals, because Brad Hill kicked the goal, which he does that sometimes. Hunter Clark hasn't played much football. He comes back, kicks a goal. Max Hall, a recruit this year, 2 goals. Travaglia, first-year player, goal. Dan Butler, I don't think he's played all year, 4 goals. Isaac Keeler, 3 goals. Mitch Owens and Higgins, 1 goal each. So really, the goals have been kicked by people that haven't played much football in the Saints team or new recruits.
Yep.
So that's something to consider.
Yeah, look, maybe if Isaac Keeler gets his 1, 2, 3 goals a game, Butler's helping out, Higgins. Higgins didn't have a big game.
No, but he's been big.
But he's been good, Higgins. So it's like, all of a sudden there's some different options out there. I completely forgot about Dan Butler, to be honest with you. Like when it was his first game and I saw him in, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's a solid player, man. He was they paid up a bit to get him as a recruit. There's another guy that left Richmond, you know what I mean? Other 2 guys that left Richmond,
True.
And how that list, just sort of, slowly fell apart. Windhager as well. He did the biz on Cozzy Pickett and then had his own, he sort of, what's the saying, take a piece of the cake and bite it too. What's that? Whatever that saying is.
Had his cake and ate it too.
That's the one, man. He did it all, man. He ate a lot of cake. So Windhager looked great. So,
Yeah, I mean, look, the Melbourne just had a low pressure game. One of those ones where they just didn't tackle hard, and Saints could just transition the ball well. But what I found funny is even though they played a kind of a low pressure game, they really could have won this game still if they just kicked a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, 21 points is insane. So
had way more inside 50s as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one that's gone missing. There was a bit of talk after the game about, that's why you don't sell your home games. If that was at the G, they would have won. I mean, probably true, but
with their 12 fans.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's easy to say, but it is a business at the end of the day. Like, even with North, the next 2 weeks, we're in WA. We don't want to be there, but hey, we don't know. We're not privy to the business side of things.
That's the thing. So. Look, I think what it is if the team was doing better, like,
correct. Yeah.
Exactly, like you don't need to sell them.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Yep. But here's the other thing. I feel like no one ever talks about Hawthorn selling their games to UTAS. Why don't we mention Hawthorn?
Yeah.
It's always, it's
even at their peak.
Yeah. Exactly. Even at their peak, they've been going to Launceston for years. So, anyway. Jump into the last game, I think, unless you guys got anything to touch on.
Look, actually, a closer game than it looks. I actually thought West Coast played pretty good for 3 quarters.
I'm actually low-key pissed because we've got them next week. I penciled this one in, and now I'm thinking, shit.
They moved the ball really, really well. I think both teams were attacking and maybe not defending so much. And I think that can happen against West Coast. I wonder whether teams just think they're just going to win, so they just play a bit more attacking.
Yeah.
And it does allow West Coast to move the ball. Like any team looks good when there's not a lot of pressure, right? So I thought West Coast, kept with Geelong for a good amount of it and got blown out in the end. But I think the West Coast fans would look at that and go, at least we saw something.
Well, there was a moment there. So they're down 7 points start of the last. And the youngster Long has a pretty easy set shot at goal.
Yeah, misses.
Misses it. From that point onwards, Cats 7 of the last 8. Now, look, would it have still
It's
happened?
all Long's fault.
Who knows? But, man, they're down by a point if he kicks that.
Yeah.
You know? And they had
It
a
was
lot
always
of
a long
momentum.
shot, mate.
Oh, hey. End the pod. End the show.
Cut the bike.
Yeah.
But hey, Jeremy Cameron, last quarter specialist, this guy. He just knows how to get the goal tally ticking. You think, he's been all right today.
How many weeks in a row has he
4.
kicked 5 goals, man?
I'll
It's
tell
5, man.
No, he's on. He's
Oh,
on.
he
a
got
roll.
5. Yeah, you're right. Hang on.
It's funny you say that because I was going to say give Oscar Allen a bit of a shout out. You know, someone that hasn't had a big year. You know, contract talks. Yeah, I think he kicked 4 goals. And then you go, oh, bravo, Oscar Allen. And then you look at the other thing, Cameron's kicked 5.
Effortlessly kicked 5 again.
Well, he's gone 5 this week, 6 last week, 7 the week before. 2, 1, 4. So this 5 was the least amount of goals he scored in the last month almost. So
So he's 5 goals clear at Coleman at the minute, Jeremy Cameron. He's looking good. And then the next is Jamie Elliott.
yeah.
And then my boy Ben King. You know, so
True.
which is interesting. Look, I got to say, I mentioned this last week, but Graham Myers, man, he's got the role for Geelong. I feel like they're really giving him the keys to put the ball into the 50, to move the ball around the ground, and he's good at it. So I think it's that's something that, you know, I've definitely come to notice, you know, more than previous years, man. He's the man.
I think Geelong. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Geelong's forwards, I think, are notorious for getting really up the ground, and I thought he did it. Myers does it really well, but Stengel did it. And Oliver Dempsey's, I guess, is a wingman that goes forward, but he's back, he's fourth. So a lot of them really run and spread and allows them to create a lot of space in the forward line.
I think that might be what the switch is like, because Dempsey probably starts at the wing, Myers starts forward, and I think that's probably the swap that happens where one of them, then Dempsey will go forward, Myers comes back in, and he becomes the option, you know, because he's always up the field. But after him, you've also got, you know, Holmes is a good kick, Mannor's a good user of the footy. They just have so many different weapons to put the ball into the forward 50, and it's very impressive week to week. Low key, like I feel like a guy who probably doesn't get talked about much. Atkins is having one of his best years. You know, I think, you know, he's tackling, his pressure, his clearances. You know, it's these role players that they have and that they're able to find. You know, yeah, so they're
he's
still
a
doing their
very
thing.
ideal role player, Tommy Atkins.
100%, man. Every team would want him in their team, man.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
that type of guy.
100%. It's like when North had like a Liam Shields at the end of his career, but he's physically still got it.
Yeah,
He's a strong lad. So
100%, man.
Do some tipping.
that's
I think
about
we'll
it.
jump
Yeah,
into
let's.
tips. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read out the leaderboard, so
Oh yeah.
much to my dismay, man, I realise how bad I am in it because I've been very gung ho with my tips. I don't even check it, but I'm low.
He's very gung ho. He just leaves it blank. It is what it is, bro.
I think I got the Saints tip. Did you guys get the Saints tip?
No.
I still had less tips than everyone this round somehow, but
So in the AFL Enjoyers tipping competition, number 1 is Skivo and Bockhall.
where's Lana S? Who's
That's Lana S.
Lana,
Sorry,
you gotta
Lana
give,
S.
you
Sorry,
need to
sorry.
give names there.
Lana S is Skivo. She's 79. You've
Yeah.
got Eugene, who's Bockhall, 79 also. Then there's separation now. Bit of separation. At the top.
There's a couple tips off, huh?
Then there's 2 tips separating. Tied 3rd and 4th is Kiara T and Nathan, Fish and Crips, both on 77. And then right behind them on 76, I'll read these last 2. You've got Cade Binjuice and Angus S, the Armadale Demons, on 76.
Was Mr. Incredible?
Incredibles on 75.
Okay.
As is Paul Curtis Taylor, Staffster, and Calamari.
Calamari. Shout out Calamari, bro.
Wait, where's Bilbo Baggins dropped to?
I know,
dropped
bro.
a bit, man.
He's dropped, so he's got to pick it up.
Mate, ChatGPT tips just ain't doing it anymore, I
No,
guess.
man. It needs to update or something.
Yeah, 100%.
All right,
Anyway,
so this week, Dogs hosting the Hawks at Marvel.
I've got no reason to tip the Hawks, mate. I'm going with the Dogs.
Neither.
Yeah, Dogs.
Yeah, neither.
Off the bye, fresh. We'll see whether there's any bye stat where anyone that comes off the bye loses or...
And this is what I'm scared about with my gauntlet, is the bye situation. How's it going to affect teams? I'm very lost on what I'm going to do with my gauntlet. But anyway, next game, Adelaide versus Brisbane at Adelaide Oval. Look, you got to give it to Adelaide at this point.
Adelaide, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah, why
Brisbane
not?
haven't been in great form. So
True.
yeah.
Richmond hosting the Swans at the G.
They could almost do it, couldn't they?
Well, they did it last year.
Yeah, no, they're a bit of a bogey team actually. the Swans for for Richmond.
I'm chasing tips. I'm going Richmond.
Yeah, I might do something dumb like that as well.
I feel like Sydney have to respond, but I don't know.
They had to respond last week, Sydney. And
Yeah, true.
they lost by 90 points.
yeah, true. I'm going Richmond as well. Geelong versus Gold Coast at GMHBA. I think it has to be Geelong at GMHBA always.
This is the game. Back to the Gold Coast point I made earlier. This would be the one that will make me a believer.
Fair enough.
This is the one.
Where they finally beat a proper good team.
Yeah.
GWS versus Port. This is where I'm thinking I'm going to do my gauntlet. This is what I'm thinking.
Interesting.
On the Giants.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I actually changed it last week from GWS. I was going to gauntlet GWS last week, and then I changed it to Brizzy last minute because this week I was struggling with. So
Shout out you for still being in the gauntlet, bro.
yeah, I love the gauntlet.
I didn't realize it started.
Yeah,
I was
neither
out
did I.
in round one.
They should announce it like better.
I know.
Yeah, no,
It
it's
should
one of
be
those
like a
things-
red banner across your screen.
Yeah, it's one of those if you know type things. Because I didn't know about it until shout out friend of the pod, Chris, mentioned the gauntlet existed last year to me.
Melcham took a hang on him. It's like the gauntlet's starting.
Yeah, next game, North versus. Actually, did you guys mention your GWS?
I'll go Giants as well.
Giants,
Yeah.
whatever. Poor sod.
North versus West Coast.
Where is it?
It's at Hands Oval in Bunbury. Look, I have to go North. I can't pick West Coast.
Bunbury?
I'm going to go North, but
Yeah.
am I crazy for thinking, like, why are we 84% Tips' choice? We have earned no credit.
That home game is not really a
And
home
the Eagles
game.
have been half decent the last few weeks. Like,
Yeah,
why
they
are
have
we
actually.
why are we so heavily favorited, apparently?
I don't know. to
You
be
guys
honest
are
with you.
crazy. If you're not a North fan, actually think about it.
Yeah. Speaking of heavily favorited, 13th versus 10th, Carlton versus Essendon, and Carlton are the favourites. Yeah.
Why are you guys 78? That's a bit generous.
Percentage. I don't look. Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I'm
actually
not
got
going to watch it.
potential.
I'll be in Tassie.
It's a Sunday
whatever.
night game, public holiday the next. We were just saying earlier in the chat earlier this week, like Sunday night games, like are discussing why they're there. But if it's a public holiday the next day
Yeah.
and it's Carlton Essendon, I'm interested.
Yeah. Look, I think it'll be actually a good game.
It should be actually. Oh,
Look, I actually think Essendon might win, to be honest. But we'll come off the bye. Hopefully, they reset themselves and get themselves going.
Fair enough.
They won't be an easy team to beat.
Look, I'm going to go Carlton anyway, to be honest.
Yeah,
with
we'll
you.
go. I'll go back.
Go Baggers, bro.
yeah, all right, fine. For you, George.
Let the record show.
Next one, Melbourne versus Collingwood. That's the
The big
King's
freeze.
birthday.
The big freeze, mate.
Yeah.
Pies are winning.
Yeah,
now.
100%.
I'm sorry. Look, hopefully Melbourne gives them a game. And their form has suggested maybe they can, but I don't know. My Pies, they're too hot on
Pies
at the
on a
moment.
big occasion.
This isn't the time to tip against them. You might
No.
opinion.
Nah. And then Dockers versus... Dockers and St Kilda have the bye. Dockers versus St Kilda. That'll do for tips, I guess.
Can I just mention one thing
Yeah,
I
of
found
course,
funny?
man.
I keep meaning to... I've always got it as a note, and I always forget to say it. My absolute favourite thing to see when a team has a heavy loss online, the social media post, full time.
Yeah. And
The
I've seen a lot of
FT
those. We've seen a lot of those, haven't we?
FT full stop is
Yeah.
my favourite thing to see after a loss to any team. It's just the funniest thing. And then the comments are just like abuse.
Yeah.
It's classic. Man.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might go like, not our day, not our. Oh no, yeah.
not our
Usually it's
day,
like
not our
full time
day,
with the G. Or,
Like sometimes when it's like you've come, like Richmond, you know, they've lost narrowly after a great performance, like couldn't hold on.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. Or like say you were in a close game and you fell short. I just fell short today. Like when you've just got spanked, FT full stop.
Yeah,
Best.
just no... Yeah, look, I don't need any... I know what happened.
And then you'll have like any player that like is handballing the ball as the image. It's like, yeah, if he hit that bloody goal, we would have won. Or like just random abuse, like strays for that player.
the other thing is because the Instagram, well, either the club or the AFL will post clips of the game as they're going, and let's say like, you know, it'll be like a good goal from one of the teams that loses, and then an hour later the game's over, and that's still on the feed. And then you look at the comments like, well, this aged well, and all that shit like that.
Yeah. Or like, a goal to get us back in it. Read the comments. Yeah, that was shit. Yeah, it didn't get us back in it, did it? Classic. Anyway.
Shout out to Ross Lyon in Vegas over the break.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, he's going
Sure he's
to
enjoying
Vegas,
himself.
100%. All in on black, probably.
Shout out to him, man.
And one more thing, sorry, that I found funny that I wrote down. The Swans fans cheering any behind they were getting when they were down big. Again, these guys don't know how to be a bad team. Not even like North fans don't do that, as far as I've seen. Like you might jeer one player. Like a Stevenson, if he's done something good after 10 bad things. But like, you don't clap the behind so ironically.
Yeah,
I have a
that's
theory. I have a theory about this, right? So Sydney, I think they have legit fans, right? But I think a bit of them, and I reckon a lot of them at that game would have been Sydney fans who they care about footy, but they're mainly rugby guys. You know what I mean? So now all of a sudden their team sucks. Goes, this sport sucks anyway. So they're just jeering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I reckon a little bit is that. There's some people it's like, I don't really care about this sport, so now I'm just going to make fun of these guys.
Yeah.
That's just a theory. I might be wrong.
I think there's some truth there.
It was also one of those weird games where you could hear the crowd.
Yes.
And the commentators were talking, but you could hear that's just the point, though. Like
there was that dude in the background. Yeah.
Classic.
Anyway, thank you
Thanks,
guys
guys.
for listening.
Bye.
See you on the next one.